Hello there. Welcome to part 3 of chapter 4, where we will look at social contexts, including the family and childcare. Okay, so I'm just going to blow this up to full screen. There we go. Uh, so let's start with the family, and the family system is a constellation of subsystems. You know, when you think about a family, you could define different groupings within the family by generation. So like the parents versus are one group, the kids are another group. You know, gender, the males of the family versus the females of the family. I don't know, role. I mean, you got if in an extended family, you got cousins, you got aunts and uncles, you got parents, you got grandparents. I mean, there are different defined roles in a family system. So I mean, there are lots of different subsystems. I mean, within any family structure, and you take on you different group memberships depending on the situation. Sometimes you know it's going to be the males versus females. Sometimes it's going to be the kids versus the parents, or I shouldn't say versus, but you know in different systems. Um, when we look at a family and the influences within a family, we often talk about direct and indirect effects within a family system. Within this fairly simple diagram, any one arrow it represents a direct effect. So there's an arrow that leads from parenting to child behavior and development. So parenting has a direct effect on the child's behavior and their development. Similarly, you know, a marital relationship has a direct effect on parenting. Okay. And speaking of that the marital relationship directly affects parenting. If we combine two arrows at a time, we get what's called an indirect effect. So I just mentioned a direct marital relationship has a direct effect on parenting, but it also through parenting has an indirect effect on child behavior and development. So if we go clockwise, beginning at the top, a marital relationship can affect parenting, which then will affect child behavior development. So we can say that that link of two arrows is an indirect effect. And we do know that when a marital relationship is better, the partners tend to be better parent. They're not be better, but they tend to do better parenting. When the relationship is strong and healthy and happy, when the marital relationship has problems, it interferes with parenting. So there is at times, you know, a marital relationship may have a direct effect on the child's behavior and development. Other times, it affects parenting, which then affects the child behavior, and that would be an indirect. Okay. Anyways, this that particular effect I mentioned has been studied a lot more lately. How marital relationships affect parenting, which in turn affect a child's behavior and their development. Within any family system, there is what's called reciprocal socialization going on. It's bi-directional, just referring to the fact that not only are parents socializing children, which you know kind of is the more obvious direction. Sure, of course we socialize children. We bring them up to follow the rules of society and the norms of society. But also keep in mind that parents are also, I mean, sorry, children are also socializing parents. Um, the child's behavior and personality and temperament will have effects on the parents and how the parents behave and characteristics of the parents will constantly be affected by the traits, behaviors, and characteristics of their children. Um, it's not as obvious when children are young, but certainly as children get older. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and she socializes me all the time in very direct ways. She teaches me about the current generation, and then she teaches me about how to use social media and things like that, and how to, and how to take pictures with a phone and things that I'm not very good at. So, and those are you know very direct socialization methods. She's teaching me about some of the norms and roles and the behaviors of current generation that I may be unaware of, just as I brought her up to understand the norms and rules of our society. All right. Anyways, I'm going to skip the scaffolding. I'm going to talk about that more in the next chapter. It's part of Vygotsky's theories, socio-cultural theory. Moving down to managing and guiding infants' behaviors. One thing that parents should definitely do is be proactive and child-proof their environments. I talked in the last section about how mothers that hit babies are, that this is often considered abuse, even if it's not causing any kind of really physical damage, because babies are not really responsible for their actions, and we should not expect them to be. I mentioned that we should childproof the environment, that it is the parents' responsibility to make sure that there's not phones or keys or pens or that the baby can put in their mouth, or poisons or detergents or things like that they can get, that they can be exposed to. So we need to be proactive, and we should not be blaming our baby that's crawling around for what they get into or what they get a hold of or put in their mouths or where they go. We cannot expect them to be listening to instructions. You can tell them all day long, a 8 or 9 or 10-month-old, not to go in a certain room. I mean, if you leave the door open to that room, they'll go in there. So it's up to parents. And so this is why, I do think that it's ridiculous to engage in any kind of physical corrective methods with a baby, or yelling at a baby or things like that. Let's take a look at a chart on the next page. This shows various corrective measures used by U.S. parents by the time children were 1 year of age, in the first column, in the middle column of numbers, and by the time they were 2 years of age in the right-hand column. And you can see, like, even in the first year of life, when infants really aren't responsible for their behaviors and can't control their behaviors and emotions. I mean, we have a sizable number of parents in the U.S. that spank the baby or with their hand, or that slap the infant's hand, as the example I was given in the last section, or they yell at the baby in anger. Over a third of parents threatening the baby, about 1 out of every 5. Even things like withdrawn privileges. I mean, I know that seems like it's maybe not a big deal to withdraw privilege, but it's not really working. Okay, for a 1-year-old or less than 1-year-old. Okay, and there's certainly nothing wrong with diverting attention. You can see 100% of both columns use that, and because it's a gentle and it is a strategy that will work with a baby or a toddler. Anyways, you can see that we are a society that does engage in a lot of corrective measures. We tend to be a society in the U.S. that does believe in many physical corrective measures. You can see that basically by the time babies are 2 years old, in the right-hand column, that almost half of parents that have spanked their babies by the time they're 2 within our society. So, I mean, we have a sizable group of parents that do believe in corporal punishment and physical punishment. Okay. Child care is our last topic. Many U.S. children today experience multiple caregivers. Most do not have a parent staying at home. We've certainly come a long way from the what was known as the nuclear family back in the early to mid 1900s, and for much of the 1900s. I mean, where you would have one parent that works, one parent that stays at home, and the stay-at-home parent would raise the child. That is no longer the world that we live in and the society we live in. Excuse me. Currently, over 2 million children receive formal licensed care. Many more are cared for by unlicensed babysitters. It is the norm now that children are being raised by people other than their parents in many circumstances because of our economic realities that parents need to work to provide for their families. One issue in the United States is that we do not have a good parental leave policy for when mothers give birth to babies. As it says here, many U.S. adults do not receive paid leave to care for young children. This is one of the reasons why the U.S. has one of the highest infant death rates in the world, for being such a rich, prosperous, and advanced country that we are, with apparently good medical technology and doctors and whatnot. I mean, we have more babies dying than most other industrialized countries around the world. And one of the things they point to for that statistic is because our parental leave policies are so behind the times and so poor. We have one of the worst parental leave policies in the world. So if you look at the bottom here, you can see that the U.S. currently allows up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for parents who are caring for a newborn. It's first of all, it's unpaid. This is what's mandated by the government. You can certainly find examples of mothers getting better than this. Certain companies have very good policies that they have for their employees and things like that. So, and certain states have up this, but this is what's mandated by the federal government. So this is kind of like the minimum, and 12 weeks of unpaid leave. So there are a lot of mothers that fall in this boat, and they get up to 12 weeks and it's unpaid, so they have no money coming in during this time. 12 weeks is 3 months. It's a brand new life in the world, and we're allowing 3 months of up to 3 months to care for it before you start shuffling that baby off to daycares or sitters. Now, here's the thing: because it's unpaid, most mothers can't afford to take 12 weeks off. And so, on average, an American mother, after giving birth, takes 6 weeks off of work. 6 weeks, a month and a half to care for this brand new being, this little baby in the world. And so when you see the statistics that we have a very high infant death rate, one of the reasons is that our babies aren't being brought up by their mothers or by their parents. I mean, they are being shuffled around to multiple caregivers. And at times, caregivers that aren't going to give the same level of care and attention that a parent would. Just as in comparison, you can see the European Union mandated 14 weeks of paid maternity leave in 1992. This is the minimum across Europe, that you get at least 14 weeks of paid leave. So it's longer than our 12, a little bit longer than our 12 weeks, but it's also paid, meaning that there's no reason not to take the full leave. And even though, once again, it's not that much longer than 12 weeks, but it turns out that most advanced countries give much more than 14 weeks. And a number of them, will do things like include the fathers in the parental leave program. In this paid leave that the European Union mandates, the parents will receive between 70 to 100% of their prior wages. Between 70 to 100%. So they're getting most of their wages while they're at home looking after their children. The average in Europe for maternity leave turns out to be about 16 weeks. Remember, the average in the U.S. was 6 weeks, so it's an extra 10 weeks on average that parents are caring for their newborns, and that can make a huge difference. An extra 2.5 months, basically, staying at home. And like I started to say, that some of the countries do far greater. I'll just give you one example from the book. Sweden has a very progressive program. Parents can take 18 months of job protected leave in Sweden, 18 months, a year and a half. And this can be shared by the parents. So they include fathers in it. So, you know, you might have the mother take 12 months and the father takes 6 months. Or they can each take 9 months at the same time, or one could take 9 months, then the other one take 9 months. I mean, like, you can split it up however you like between the two. And this is job protected leave, right? Paid job protected leave. So they cannot be fired, they cannot be let go from the jobs during this time. Here's one quick chart to finish off this chapter, and you know, there's a lot of information in it, but this is the number of weeks of paid leave in comparison of many countries around the world. You can, if you look for the U.S., you can look at the bottom there, where we're the one with 0 weeks of paid leave, and then as you go, if you go up near the top, you get to Estonia, up at the very top, and they're given 87 weeks of paid leave. So what's that? A good year and a half or so. Anyways, so you can see that we are in comparison to other countries, we certainly are really lagging behind as far as having a good parental leave program. I'm from Canada. You can see about in the middle of the chart there. Canada gives, you know, half a year or more of paid leave. I actually think it increased recently, but at least in this chart, it's shown it at a half year. I mean, it's a huge difference from 0 weeks of paid leave. These programs encourage parents to stay home and care for their children during the first year. We talked about attachment in the last section. This is going to promote a healthy attachment, healthy, secure attachment between parents and their children if you are at home caregiving for them. Okay, and that ends chapter 4. And everyone have a great day, and I'll see you again in chapter 5.